This video is going to walk you through how I intentionally brainwashed myself from shy, awkward, terrible with people, hating everything, spending hours and hours playing PlayStation, playing games, just wasting all of my time, having no ambition, no goals, nothing, to the point where I've grown to 50K per month agencies. I'm managing a team of 7 to 8 people right now, running the successful company, taking sales calls, managing prospects, having a much easier time in business. And by all means, I don't run a $100 million company yet, but what I want to do in this video is share the lessons that anyone can take from going from, complete beginner. You may be scared to talk to people. You may, dislike the agency space. You may have bad beliefs. You may have bad habits. You may be spending time, watching Netflix, eating junk food, all these things. So what I want to do in this video is share the practical lessons that I've learned from my mentors who are doing, 8, 9 figures per year, making insane amounts, so that you can take it, implement it, and shortcut the lessons, so that instead of taking, 3 to 5 years in learning all of this, becoming a better person, you can just do it in, a much shorter time. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Ethan Welby. If you want to check out my story, I'll link the video over here. So check that after this video. So what I want to do is share what I was like before all of this happened. And to give you some context, when I was around, 15 years old, I would literally spend 10 hours per day playing games. Like I would have a PlayStation and I would just sit there. I remember it was like, imagine the holidays when you're not at school, and obviously you're at school, you're doing your schoolwork, you see people play sports, whatever. But then it's holidays and you have complete free reign of what you could be doing every single day. And, instead of going out to parties, instead of seeing girls, instead of working a job, instead of doing productive things, I would literally stay. And I remember this was winter at the time. I would literally stay like in a blanket, huddled up, just playing games all day, every single day. And I would play like games like FIFA, like Destiny, old games, but I would just spend all of my time doing it. And I remember the only times that I would leave my room would be to like get something to eat, and it would just be like cereal. And I would just have like the box of cereal, and I would just like eat it as I went along. Like I wouldn't even, at some points, like I wouldn't even shower. I would just be in my pajamas all day. And then it's like, you see the sun out and you just feel so like terrible when you're going through it. And then it'll be the evening, it'll be like 10 o'clock. And literally the only times I'd go out is to eat or to use the bathroom. I would be playing games, have the headphone on. I'd ignore all of my family. It was the worst thing ever. And the worst part is, I would waste all this time. I had no ambition, no goals, nothing. But inside, I knew that this was terrible. Like, this was so pointless. And the people who I was playing games with, they didn't want anything either. So they were just, doing nothing. So what ended up happening was, I think I probably found some like, YouTube videos, some Gary V motivational thing. And that kind of got my interest in business. So because of that, when I was playing these games, as crazy as it sounded, I would be up at like, let's say 12, 1 a.m. And I'd be playing these games where you kind of have to like, imagine you just have to like do the same thing over and over and over until you luckily or hopefully get like, we called it like a drop at the time. So you would just go through this map the whole time in the hopes that one time you get this like lucky thing and it gives you some stupid pointless benefit. So I would be doing that, like this mindless activity, like a complete robot. All of my friends would be sleeping, wouldn't be talking to any girls, nothing. I'd be doing this, but at the same time, I would have like Tony Robbins playing in the back. So I would have this motivational stuff like, oh, you can do this. You can do whatever you put your mind to. You got to focus. You got to work hard. While I was playing these games in my like blanket, eating cereal. Because of that, it kind of just started like brainwashing me to believe that I could do something else. So as I kept going, and as you'll probably see in the story video of mine, but as I kept going, I found these business models. I ended up, let's say selling the PlayStation, selling the games, removing all the bad things in my life. Like I stopped watching Netflix. I stopped doing all these things because I wanted to pursue business. So a few years later, we got to the point now where I've grown to 50K per month agencies. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. Not because it's like some discipline thing. I literally just don't want to because it seems so like terrible. And I'm like, why would I even do that? Like playing games and all that. But through that process, it's been a massive jump. And the first thing that allowed me to make this jump was the idea of conscious brainwashing. So like I was saying, when I was doing these things, even when I had no business, no expertise, no nothing, I would still listen to this educational, motivational material. It would literally be the corny things that I would literally make fun of people for listening to. I'd be like, oh, he's one of these like motivational guru guys. And I would be listening to the motivational guru guys. Like I had no business, I had nothing, but because I was listening to it, because I saw like, entrepreneur morning routines, and I would see they would listen to audiobooks, I would just listen to audiobooks. And because of that, I felt like an entrepreneur. I felt like I was running a business, even though I had nothing. I was just going to school every day. But by doing that, it created this identity of someone who is, ambitious, someone who is, a leader, someone who runs a company, someone who can speak well. So by listening to this stuff every single day, I remember it'd be like before school in the morning. And while most people that listen to music, watch YouTube while they're like getting dressed, eating their breakfast, I would be listening to business podcasts. I'd be listening to motivational lectures. Like, why? I don't know. but I just did it. I remember even on the way to school, like literally before my exams, where people are like cramming in last minute stuff before like a physics test, I would be listening to that business stuff, even though I had no business. But because of it, I just surrounded myself or my mind with this material. And people would be asking me like, why are you talking about business? Why are you talking about, not going to university, all these things? And I didn't know why at the time. I thought it was just how I was wired. But then I realized I was programming myself to do this by just all times listening to this material. So I'd honestly recommend this for anyone where in times where you're doing things that aren't necessarily productive. I remember, I would have to pack the dishwasher. I hate that. Like, it is so annoying to me, packing the dishwasher and unpacking it. But what I would do is I would make sure to listen to this material while I was doing it. And then it made it, kind of productive. So using these periods of downtime to motivate yourself to learn new things, it's extremely beneficial. The next thing that I implemented was the idea of stress tolerance. Now, most people think that, when you're working all day, you're going to reach a certain point, then you're going to burn out, and then you just crash and you can't do anymore. And for most people, that's like 3 hours of work. I remember, in high school, I would study for an hour and I'd be like, okay, I need a nap, or I need some cereal. I'm like, now if I looked at that guy, I'd be like, bro, what are you talking about? I remember when I was running the agency, imagine you're taking sales calls. And what happened was I would take like 2 calls and I'd be tired. I'm like, I need to sleep. Like, I need to watch Netflix. But then, because I understood the idea of stress tolerance, the idea that by doing things that push you in terms of your comfort zone, in terms of your energy even, like staying up past a certain time, like working for a certain amount of time, you can actually strengthen your ability to handle stress. So if you think about it, like these billion-dollar CEOs, they have literally hundreds of people reporting to them, hundreds of issues happening every day, massive decisions, all their family like asking for help, all these friends asking for help, people asking for money, all of this stuff. They probably deal with 1,000 times more stress than the average person in terms of the amount of things that they have to manage. But they're fine, or I'd assume they're fine. But the reason that they're able to do this, the reason that they're able to manage this entire life is because of the ability to build stress tolerance, right? You can train it. It's like a muscle. So I used to take sales calls. This used to tire me out. So I would take 3 calls, I would take 4 calls, eventually 5 calls. And it got to the point now where I can literally take 8 to 10 calls in a day. I'll be probably pretty tired, but I'll be fine. Like, I can do it. I'll wake up on a Monday morning, see 10 calls, and I'll be like, it's just another day. While having like endless fires to put out, problems in the business, team members complaining about something, some problem happening. All these things will happen at the same time. Girlfriend complaining. But then you check your phone, it's like, you just carry on, Like, you just keep going with the day. So the idea that you can build it by putting yourself in these situations will completely change the way that you approach it, because now whenever you're tired and you do a bit more, it's like, now you're getting stronger. And the third way that I brainwashed myself is reframing negative emotions. Now, I actually heard this from Tate first, where he was talking about how negative emotions can actually be beneficial. So where people, they get angry, they get sad, they get upset, and they see it as negative emotions and try to minimize it with things like food, like alcohol, Netflix, all of these things, whereas they can actually use these emotions as unlimited energy. So I first used this when I had a client in my agency, and for this client, we spent so long trying to get them results. And for some reason, it just wouldn't happen. For all of the other clients, they were doing fantastic. People are happy, everything. But for this one client, results just wouldn't come in. And we were probably getting them around, let's say 1 to 2 bookings per week. This is when I was running the appointment setting agency. But they wanted like a booking a day or even 2 bookings per day. So their expectations were very high. And I was always trying to like bring it down, like be realistic. Like, this isn't probably going to happen, getting 2 to 3 appointments per day. But because the expectations were so high, because they wouldn't budge, it became a very negative experience where every call that we had, it was like, they were always upset. They were like, oh, why are you guys not doing this? We could do this so much better ourselves. And then we're on the other side, like, look, we need certain things to be in place to actually get these results. Like, we need case studies, we need an actual offer. And because of this, we're just knocking heads the whole time. And it gets to the point where you'll genuinely get angry with the client. And I remember during this time, I was so annoyed with it because my team was working so hard to do it and they were trying to get the results up, but there were certain things that the client wasn't providing. And the way that, it was just like clashing heads. A lot of people in the situation, they would get annoyed and they would ignore the situation. But because I heard this idea of reframing the negative emotions using things like anger, annoyance to make you work more. I remember it was like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. and usually I'd stop working at like 10 p.m. But I remember that night specifically, like I was just at my laptop. I was just so annoyed. And I was like, I need to solve this. So I ended up working from like 10 to like 1 a.m. straight. No distractions, nothing, no phone, all just like 1 or 2 a.m. And I was literally just writing down how we could solve this problem. I probably wrote down like 10 to 30 different approaches that we could take. I sent them a loom like first thing in the morning. I sent it to the team. I was like, this is the plan. This is how we're going to do it. And then by doing that, it actually solved the problem. But in that moment, I realized that when I would usually be tired at like 9 p.m., by using that emotion, it's literally unlimited energy. Like everything, imagine you're in the gym and you're angry. Let's say your girlfriend broke up with you, or I don't know, something bad happened in the business. Think about that workout where you are genuinely angry versus like, I don't know, the day where you wake up, good sleep, everything's going well. It's like, okay, cool. So the lesson that you can take is if you're in a situation now where you are unhappy with where you are, and this is me like every day. Like I see people, I have genuine friends who are at $500 to $1 million per month, like 500,000 to $1 million per month. And it actually annoys me that we're not there. So every day I'm annoyed that I'm not there, and it forces me to work more to get there. So if you're in a situation where you don't like where you are, be angry, like be annoyed with the situation, use that energy. Don't use that energy to, I don't know, watch Netflix for 12 hours or eat junk food or something. Use that energy to work harder, to put it into the business, and then progress faster. Because I promise you that if you can leverage that, there's literally no emotion that can slow you down. And if you want a video on my full story from start to finish, I'll check out this video over here.